Welcome to Wisconsin in Focus. I'm JD Davidson. Around the country, state legislatures and even Congress have spent a lot of time debating if transgender athletes have a place in girls' sports at the middle school, high school, and collegiate level. Some states within the last year have enacted bans to prevent participation. Joining us today is Ben Yount, Wisconsin contributor for the Center Square. Ben, Wisconsin wants to create a ban to stop transgender athletes from competing in girls' sports, but it won't be easy. Where do things stand on the issue in Madison right now?
It's going to be all but impossible for the next 2 years or so. The legislature, which is controlled by Republicans, and that's where you really need to start on this, that this is a mixed government state. It is purple in that Milwaukee and Madison, the biggest cities, are very, very blue. Madison, the seat of state government, is very progressive. And then you have the rest of the state of Wisconsin, which is largely conservative, smaller communities, and they don't want things to change. And so you have this political division where the Republican-controlled legislature has now passed a ban that would say, if you are born a male, if you cannot compete against girls in girls' sports at the middle school level, the high school level, or the collegiate level. And this has been something that's been popping around for 2 years and has plenty of support among the legislature, but it does not have any support from the state's governor. And so within minutes of the Wisconsin Senate approving this earlier in the week, the governor promised that it will never become law. He said, as long as I am governor, this will never be a law. So you have yet again the people's representatives saying this is what we would like to do. And you have the governor saying, I don't care if that's what you would like to do. I'm not going to sign it. And you don't have the numbers to override me. So guess what? It's not going to happen.
I covered the same issue in Ohio with a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican governor. The House and Senate easily passed a ban, included with several other transgender pieces of legislation. The governor vetoed it. It had been going on in Ohio for a couple of years, and the governor's reasoning for it was, first, the Ohio High School Athletic Association had stepped in and created a policy that dealt with transgender athletes in girls' sports. Second, the ban would impact seven athletes in the state. And his reasoning was there's no need to pass a law if it only impacts 7 athletes. Does the Wisconsin legislature have the vote? Would they have enough votes to override a veto?
No, there's a supermajority in the Senate, but they're short in the Assembly. And that's the difference here, is that while there is probably support, and you may be able to find some outstate Democrats who in private may say, all right, you know what, we're going to, this is, they're certainly not going to go on the record. They're not going to cross the governor. In an election year, they're not going to go that far. This is one of these things that, again, you're right. There are maybe at best a handful of students who born men and want to play on the girls' team. This is a bit more for college athletics, where this is becoming more and more of a thing. Again, the University of Wisconsin-Madison is a Division I powerhouse in certain sports, women's hockey, women's volleyball. They're national champions or competitors for national championships every single year. And that's the other half of this debate, is that it not only protects young women physically. It was, Massachusetts, where there was a trans player on a women's basketball team who was just manhandling the opponents. But this is being billed as, hey, look, if you start to allow biological males to compete against biological females, it's not going to take some coach too long to figure out, well, those people are bigger and faster. I kind of want them on my team. And next thing you know, there are all sorts of fewer opportunities for women. And that's the debate. But, Governor Evers comes out and says, look, this is going to hurt trans kids. And he has been very clear since the trans debate has become a thing at the state level. He's not going to sign any law, whether it's a bathroom bill, whether it's names at schools, whether it's a crackdown on these sort of secret gender policies. This has been the center of a couple of lawsuits here in Wisconsin. School districts have unwritten policies that say, yeah, if a student wants to go by a different name, or student wants to change into a dress or change into pants when they come to school, don't tell mom and dad, because mom and dad may not be able to be trusted. The governor has made it clear he's not going to sign bans on that either. And so, from the governor's perspective, this is an attack on trans kids, and he's not going to sit idly by. From the Republican, point of view, this is an attack on biological girls. And they're not going to sit by and wait and stand idly by. And so we have one of these mixed government standoffs. The governor's race not up for another couple of years, so we'll have to wait and see who sits in the governor's mansion and who sits on the Wisconsin Supreme Court after 2026 to see just sort of how that one's going to work out.
The entire debate has blown up in a year and a half, 2 years possibly. I'm sure that over the last decade, more and more trans kids have become more comfortable with who they are. That's probably led to the recognition of more and more transgender kids.
This is one of the great debates. And if this was talk radio, we'd throw open the phone lines and we'd spend the next 2 hours doing it. Yeah. Is the explosion in the number of trans kids or just LGBTQ kids? I saw 1 in 5 Gen Z adults, that'd be people in their 20s, now identify as somewhere on the LGBTQ spectrum, more of them women identifying as bisexual. But is this because people are now becoming comfortable with who they are, or is this, as a lot of commentators have said, it's some sort of social contagion that this is cool on TikTok? This is one of those unanswered questions. And really what it comes down to, I mean, you're a high school referee. I watched my kids play high school sports. High school sports are such a great thing for young men and women, but it's a 4-year ticking clock. And if you miss out on that opportunity once, you may not ever get it again. And it takes so little for kids to just be like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna go home, sit down, and watch some TV and not play this sport this spring. It is such a special thing. High school sports is such a special thing. And they're being inundated from people outside the high school sporting, sphere. And that's the real tragedy, is that no matter what, somebody here is going to lose out, and they're going to lose out on something that for an awful lot of us was a foundational part of our youth. And I'm one of the biggest supporters of high school sports. We'll, talk about AAU ball later, but high school sports are great. And that's the shame of this, is that it's a political debate about kids who want to play softball or soccer or football or basketball.
That's a great point. And once you get those outside forces into things, it's almost impossible to get them out. Ben, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
Learn from creative experts. At Skillshare, classes are taught by industry leaders excited to share their tools, techniques, and professional journeys with you. Follow the link in our show description to join Skillshare today and get 1 month free.